Good morning world. Welcome to the sounds of the morning here on the balcony and to yet another chapter, earlier in the day today, of Prosperity Consciousness, one of my most beloved books ever. We're about halfway through and I'm reading more or less a chapter, possibly two, every day for the next little bit. Now this book is written by Chutisa and Bowman. Amazing guys here. They look a lot better when the book isn't beaten up, but hey, they're very, very amazing. If you don't know them yet, hop onto their website. I think it's the2bowmans.com. Just look up the two Bowmans. You will find some way of reaching them, or you can find them on the Access Consciousness website. They are both certified facilitators of Access Consciousness, of Right Riches for You. They're the co-creators of Benevolent Capitalism with Gary Douglas, also of Access Consciousness, like the great magician behind it all. Anyway, it is an amazing book. I am super grateful for Gary, for Chutisa, and for Stephen, and for Annabeth walking past quietly today so far. And I love this book, which is why I asked to be able to read it out loud with you. If you like, there are no chapter numbers, but I am on page 61. Whatever you would like to be, you have to be it now, right up front. In this chapter, Chutisa talks about the following concepts: becoming what you wish to be and living the ideal of what is possible, changing your consciousness and your outer reality, creating your own reality as the key to prosperity, and tools to help you claim, own, and acknowledge prosperity consciousness as a state of being. When Steve and I began our journey towards becoming the leaders of our own lives and the creators of our own realities, then we discovered that if we wanted to be magnets for unlimited amounts of money and success, we had to become what we wish to be in this moment, right up front. Up until this point, we bought into the lie that we had to have lots of money in our bank account before we could be wealthy, successful, and joyful. This point of view required us to function in a linear construct that presumed we had to have something, like money and time, in order to do something, like write a book, or create more products, or have helicopters flying overhead. So we could be what we desired: successful, prosperous, and joyful. This is a cause and effect viewpoint of creation that makes use of force and effort. We saw that we were not living the life that we wished to create because we were wasting so much of our energy and time functioning in a linear cause and effect construct. We had bought the lie of this reality that said we had to do in order to have, in order to be. Well, this linear construct induced us to believe that time and money were real and that there was a limited amount of energy in this universe. We believed that at some point in the future, when we had more money and more time, we'd be free to do anything we wanted to do. And only then we would be happy. Hello, Mr. Cactus. I didn't realize you were there. Breaking away from the do, and more, do even more reality. When I was using access processing to break away from the do more reality, I suddenly became aware that doing, being, and having could come from a totally non-linear point of view. And I saw that I had to be willing to perceive, know, be, and receive that I was already wealthy and successful before I would ever become wealthy and successful. I know this may come across as a bizarre point of view, and yet, for me, the only thing that created freedom from the do, and do even more reality was to perceive, know, be, and receive myself as wealthy and prosperous in the present moment. Perceiving myself as wealthy and prosperous prompted me to behave as a wealthy person. So setting the creative process in motion. I set the creative process in motion by following 3 steps. First, I asked if I had unlimited amounts of money, then who would I be that I'm not willing to be now? Awesome question. Second, I became aware of what I wished to create. And third, I asked who and what would I be if I had that. Now, once I had the answer to the third question, I set out immediately, without any further ado, to be that and to function and act from that particular energy. I chose to be prosperous and successful. This was not about imagining it or visualizing it or cognitively programming it, nor fabricating some delusion that only existed in my mind. I was not creating a false universe or pretending to be what I was not. I was not faking it or putting on some front to create the illusion of wealth. No, it was not about creating a pretense of what I would look like when I was prosperous. I simply decided to live in the present and to be greater now than I had been willing to be. And I'm going to pause for a quick sec because that's one of my favorite tools that some of my favorite friends speak about all the time. What if we're willing to be greater now, just in these 5 seconds, greater than we were 5 seconds ago or 10 seconds ago? And with that, every choice that we make expands our possibilities, expands our life, expands everything. So how does it get any better than that? Who would you be if you had huge amounts of money? Becoming abundantly rich starts with you. You must be willing to perceive, know, be, and receive that you are abundantly rich. You must truly believe and trust that you are. And soon, the conditions of your life will transform to resonate with your new level of prosperity consciousness. Often, when Steve and I say this at seminars or at conferences, someone in the audience will ask, well, isn't it dishonest and untruthful when we imagine that we're abundantly rich when we aren't really rich at the present time? And we reply, well, you're not being dishonest when you entertain the idea of what's possible. It's not untruthful to entertain the fundamental truth of the infinite being that you are. We have a friend who was born into a poor family. Tara never experienced luxury when she was growing up. Life didn't start out easy, and things looked pretty grim for her. Her back was against the wall, and she clearly saw that something had to change. Tara was determined to prosper and have all the luxury and opulence that rich people have. Amazingly, she wasn't focused on her poverty or lack of circumstances. She didn't tell herself, oh no, I'm broke, I can't afford anything. Instead, she perceived a thriving and a prosperous life, filled with success and accomplishment. She truly believed that it was possible for her to be wealthy, and she trusted that she could be a millionaire. Tara raised her level of responsiveness and receptiveness to money. She was willing to do everything possible to learn about how to handle money, how to generate it, and how to multiply it. She spent her time doing things that allowed her to see opportunities, which enabled her to increase her financial intelligence. She developed the frame of mind, lifestyle, and behavior appropriate for who and what she chose to be. And she was able to achieve her vision. She now has access to many millions of dollars and only chooses for herself those things that are exuberant. Tara had something that other people in the same situation did not have. She had the dedication and the discipline to be wealthy and prosperous. She made a demand of herself to focus her attention on being wealthy and prosperous. She didn't dwell on poor me or worry about what if. She believed herself to be wealthy and prosperous, and this led Tara to behave as a rich person. Tara lives in the question, and therefore she chooses anything for herself. Before she chooses anything for herself, she asks 2 questions. 1, would a millionaire choose this? And 2, if money weren't the issue, what would I choose? The message here is that if you want a prosperous life, it's up to you to be responsible for achieving it. If Tara had bought the lie of scarcity as a reality, then she would have never perceived it as possible for her to become a millionaire. Making a choice to become greater than you have been willing to be. At our keynote presentations, Steve and I are often asked about the notion of making a choice to become greater than what you've been willing to be, so that you're able to create a more expanded consciousness. Another frequent question is, how can I give up the no choice point of view and actually claim my power? Tara shows us one awe-inspiring way to do both. Most people only desire to be rich or wish to have lots of money. And they think, wow, wouldn't it be great to be rich like those millionaires? Or worse yet, I could never be as rich as they are. Tara made a choice to become greater than she was, and the approach she took was to ask questions. What are the infinite possibilities for me to become a millionaire? What would it take for me to be that? What are the infinite possibilities of this sort of money showing up in my life? There's never a doubt in her mind as to the outcome. Tara has chosen to perceive, know, be, and receive, and trust that she is a millionaire. And you can do this as well. You can begin in this very moment. So start to realize that your worries, your concerns, and your beliefs about money or scarcity are not real. And when you realize they're not real, then you won't buy into them and you won't create your life based on what is not real and not true. What? You don't feel wealthy and prosperous? You don't feel like a millionaire? Well, so what is it gonna take for you to be able to perceive, know, be, and receive, and trust that you are a millionaire? In our own practice, we verified that if we want to be prosperous, then we must make a choice to become greater than what we've been willing to be. The truth of this is simple. When you start receiving the greatness of who you truly are, then everything in your life starts to transform. So you can begin by asking these questions. What's it gonna take for me to show up in my life? What's it gonna take for me to receive the greatness of who I truly am? What is it gonna take for me to perceive, know, be, and receive that I am a millionaire? Please trust that the universe will provide infinitely if you're willing to ask, to listen, and receive. You have to ask a question for the universe to give you an answer. And it's no good to just say, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire now. Sorry. I love this book. You can duplicate the experience of Tara or other prosperous people you know by tapping into the prosperity consciousness. Tara doesn't just wish for prosperity, she's cultivated her prosperity consciousness and the attitude that she can have what she wants. You can too. Try it for yourself. Changing your consciousness with a corresponding change in your outer reality. The key element of the conscious creation approach that Tara reveals in her life is that if you make a change in your consciousness, then you get a corresponding change in your outer reality. You can try this for yourself. Allow yourself to perceive, to know, to be, and to receive and trust that you are an abundantly rich millionaire. When Steve and I chose to be prosperous, we had to step up and make a demand of ourselves, no matter what it took, to be wealthy and prosperous. Making that demand of ourselves was essential. We made a choice to be wealthy. And once we did that, then ways of becoming prosperous started to show up in our lives. We became aware that the ability to generate wealth is relative to our consciousness around money. And it's always a choice. Do we choose anti-conscious points of view that focus on scarcity, poverty, fear, resentment, jealousy, envy, and greed? Or do we elevate our awareness to prosperity consciousness? Practical processes. See, this book has got lots of little goodies, little highlighted boxes and tools for change and stuff like that. So behooves you to get a copy. I'll put a link below. You can find it on Amazon or on the Access website. Just get it because it's awesome. And then read along with me. I might even put this on YouTube. Who knows? Let's see. Practical processes. Envision the difference it would create in your life if you could perceive, know, be, and receive with absolute confidence that you, my darling, are a millionaire. And in order to do this, you have to choose to step up and become more than you have been willing to be. Everything is a choice, and everything is an infinite possibility. Have you ever wondered what makes extraordinarily prosperous people different from ordinary people? What is exceptional about them? What makes them stand out from the rest of the crowd? Prosperous people are not the same as resource-rich people. Prosperous people do not suffer the affliction of a scarcity mindset that shapes the lives of so many people in the world, including many rich people. In our work with individuals of diverse backgrounds and businesses of all sizes and all types, Steve and I have discovered that the primary difference between extraordinarily prosperous people and the rest of the crowd is the choices that they make. Prosperous people have chosen to perceive, know, be, and receive themselves as creators of their reality. They've claimed, owned, and acknowledged that they are responsible for their situation and the things that they create. They never blame external circumstances or their past or their background for what they are. They don't buy into the lie of scarcity and erroneous beliefs about insufficiency that are based on the appearance of poverty in this reality. Can you imagine what kind of life Oprah Winfrey would have created if she had bought the lie of this reality? The lie that she couldn't be a famous, wealthy, and successful talk show host because she was an African-American woman? Oprah said in one of her interviews that nobody could have imagined that she would do anything but work in a factory or a cotton field in Mississippi. From her early childhood days, people told her what she couldn't do and why. Fortunately, Oprah did not buy into their lies and into their erroneous beliefs. Rather, she listened to her own instinct and her knowing. She took responsibility for the way her life would turn out. All the prosperous and successful people we know confirm that taking responsibility for being the creators of their own reality is the key to having a prosperous and successful life. Secrets of people who are truly prosperous. Many years ago, when we first returned to Australia from the United States, Steve and I had an opportunity to discuss the notion of prosperity with an amazing self-made millionaire. Edward exudes prosperity consciousness from every pore of his being, and after asking him a series of questions, we ascertained what made him and other extraordinarily prosperous people different from ordinary people. They have communion with money. Edward takes pleasure in having money. He enjoys the way that he acquires money, receives money, uses money, gives money, and relates to money. He is prosperous in the way he is with himself and with all things. It's really funny. Annabeth barks at exactly those kind of key points. Hang on. She's a funny one. He is prosperous in the way he is with himself and with all things. He's truly present to the fullness and richness of each moment. He's not putting it on. It's not an image that he's creating. It's the reality of who he is. Edward is a living magnet, and he invariably attracts into his life people, ideas, and opportunities. Edward told us that he perceives and knows that he can create and receive an infinite amount of money every day. How does he do it? Well, that's what we're going to explore next. Hint, Edward knows that he lives in a world of infinite possibilities and abundance, rather than a world of scarcity and lack. Sailor, you and those little ears. Oh, it's so funny. He's willing to receive everything without any judgment, and he's also willing to lose everything, as he knows he can always make more. He lives his life as though it's impossible to fail. Edward knows and trusts something that most others don't. He perceives and knows that there are infinite possibilities in this world. There's an abundance of money, and there's more than enough for all, an endless supply. Edward has the awareness, the trust, and the knowing that all of his requirements and wishes will be fulfilled. How cool is that? He's not just referring to money, assets, and possess. You can't hear me? Really? Can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can somebody write a little note if you can hear me or not? Is this better? Let me see. No, I didn't mute myself. I wonder. Can you hear me? Yes, Bridget? Oh, awesome. Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Maybe I just needed to repeat that portion. Okay, because I can't remember. Oh, Edward knows and trusts something that most others don't. Where was I? He perceives and knows there are infinite possibilities in the world. There's an abundance of money. There's more than enough for all, an endless supply. Edward has the awareness, the trust, and knowing that all of his requirements and wishes will be fulfilled. He's not just referring to money, assets, and possessions. He's talking about everything: talents, abilities, freedom, energy, contentment, joyfulness, fun, and more. That knowing and trust allow him to live without restraint. We're grateful for the opportunity to talk with someone like Edward, who truly has prosperity consciousness, as it prompted us to what is this infinite possibilities you read about? Well, read the book. They're there. We're grateful for the opportunity to talk with someone like Edward, who truly has prosperity consciousness, as it prompted us to re-examine our own relationships with money. We became aware that if we would like to have something greater in our lives and striving to acquire money, then we had to begin to develop a more conscious attitude towards ourselves, towards each other, towards money, and towards communion with all things. Steve and I have now claimed, owned, and acknowledged prosperity consciousness as a state of beingness. We know that our prosperity did not occur by divine intervention, by chance, luck, coincidence, or any outside influence. Aspiring to be rich, wealthy, or prosperous is not enough. Our prosperity certainly could not have happened, would not have happened, if we had not chosen to claim, own, and acknowledge prosperity consciousness. I ascertain that if I wanted to make some moderate and judicious changes in my life, then I would focus on altering my behavior, my approach, and conduct. However, if I wanted to create a momentous quantum transformation, then I had to totally shift out of my old paradigm, the way that I view myself and the world around me, and into a new one. I realized that until I began to acknowledge prosperity consciousness and to choose to become engaged in my own wealth and success, I would never be successful financially. And I would say that's true with everything, not only finances, with anything and everything in life. Seeing through the lie of scarcity and lack. When Steve and I returned to Australia, after 2 years of living with absolutely nothing, we unknowingly bought into a scarcity paradigm that afflicted other parts of our lives. For many years after our experience in the United States, we behaved around money in ways that diminished who we were. Even though we both had very well-paid jobs by this time, we lived in fear of scarcity and in lack. We bought into that lie that what we wanted, we couldn't get. Or if we got it, we could lose it. We had inadvertently bought into the lie of scarcity, and then we tried to create our lives based on this lie. Fortunately, we became aware that we had permitted lies about money to have immense power and authority over us and to dictate the terms of our lives. We began to question the root of our distress and unease, particularly because nothing in our actual state of affairs warranted it. We discovered that the most common belief we had around money was, we don't have enough money, and we always want more. And since we bought the lie that there was not enough, our energy was focused on trying to rise above our perceived sense of lack and the fear of missing out and the fear of losing to others. At first, we were stunned to discover that we had a recurring fear about money, and then we became eager to examine the cause of it. We asked ourselves a question, okay? What assumed points of view would we have to have in order to have fear about money? What assumed points of view would we have to have in order to have fear about money? And our answer was, well, we fear the absence of money. Our basic assumptions were that we need money and we need to have more money. We'd bought into lies and limitations. And when we saw that we'd been trying to create our financial life around a lie, well, then new possibilities started to appear. Instead of making ourselves crazy with worry and fear regarding the absence of money and tormenting ourselves about the need to have more, we began to recognize that our worries and distress were not real. When we were able to realize that our fears and worries were not real, well, then we were able to stop buying into them. We stopped creating our lives based on what was not real and not true. Becoming aware of our points of view about money and about abundance. Even though my childhood years had been full of abundance and wealth, after 2 years of living in the United States with almost no money, I had totally bought the lie of scarcity. It is amazing how short a period of perceived lack could grow into a full-blown scarcity paradigm and supplant any prosperity-based experiences that I'd previously had. I totally bought into the lies of the scarcity paradigm, and I was holding on to a scarcity mindset without being aware that I was holding on to it. I actually believed that the mindset I was holding on to was holding me. I became a victim of my scarcity state of mind. And this is a state of beingness that vibrates with fear, lack, dissatisfaction, and frustration. Fortunately, I became aware that my points of view about money and about abundance were holding me back from realizing all that I was capable of attaining. When I saw that I was trying to create my reality around the lie of scarcity, then new possibilities started to become visible. I rooted out my anti-conscious points of view by actually seeing the lie of my scarcity paradigm. I discovered that the most conscious way to get unstuck from my old points of view was the opposite of what most people do. Instead of judging and beating myself up, I simply chose to see my thoughts, feelings, and emotions as an interesting point of view. I stopped trying to push these thoughts, feelings, and emotions away with energy. I gave myself a break and just acknowledged that I had those points of view. I chose to be an allowance of myself. You might want to rewind the video and listen to that portion again. It's amazing. Most importantly, I didn't waste any time and energy analyzing or looking back at my life to identify how I had acquired those limitations. To look into the past and to pore over my limiting viewpoints would have only constructed a habit of looking for negative concepts that substantiated and emphasized my limitations. Analyzing and scrutinizing my past was not valuable and would only call attention to past constraints and limitations already held within me. These would simply mire me further in my own gunk, my own gloom. So instead, I started receiving the greatness of who I truly was, and everything in my life started to transform. Most people want to be wealthy and prosperous, but they never choose to be wealthy and prosperous. And there's a big difference between wanting and desiring as opposed to choosing and making a demand of yourself. When you're unwilling to make a demand of yourself to be greater than you already are, and you get stuck in the same place you've always been and always will be. If you're going to perceive yourself as already being enormously wealthy and prosperous, then you have to be able to pull that energy into your body. You must fully open yourself to the energy of enormous wealth and prosperity, and to the energy of what you're choosing to create. You must see yourself already in possession of abundance, wealth, and massive amounts of energy. You need to have your entire being congruent with that energy. You have to consistently live and operate from that place from now on. then all you have to do is be willing to receive everything without judgment and allow the universe to deliver. If you choose to have an enormously wealthy and prosperous life, then you have to consistently be congruent with the energy of enormous wealth and prosperity in every moment. It's not okay to be this only occasionally or only now and then or whenever you remember. It's not expansive for you to be this when you're eager over infinite possibilities and then to undermine your entire endeavor by sinking down time and again with doubt, negative thinking, and judgment. Remember I mentioned these little gray boxes? So we've got one here. Practical processes. Allow your awareness. Okay, we'll do this all together. Everybody lower barriers. Lower your barriers, lower your barriers. Relax them down, and they're still kind of up, but anyway, relax them down as much as you can and begin to expand your awareness out beyond your body, beyond the room that you're in, beyond the house that you're in, beyond the space that you're in all directions. Allow your awareness to go out 5,000 miles in all directions to all the enormously wealthy people in the world and all the places where they're functioning and being prosperity consciousness. Tap into the place in their consciousness where they are being totally prosperous. Notice that energy. Play with that energy. Engage with that energy. And then invite that energy in to you. Bring that creative energy into your body. Notice how you feel. Begin to function from that space of beingness. See yourself already in possession of abundance, wealth, and massive amounts of money. And when you're being that energy, maybe set an alarm on your phone or something, just several times a day to just bling. Hey, okay, tapping into all the prosperous, abundant, happy, amazing people all out there. And then have that little exercise for yourself. And at the end of every chapter, we've got the tools to help you claim, own, and acknowledge prosperity consciousness as a state of being. Perceive yourself as wealthy and prosperous in this moment. Questions to ask and things to do. Ask, if I had unlimited amounts of money, then who would I be that I'm not willing to be now? Become aware of what you wish to create. Ask, what and who would I be if I had that? Set out immediately to be that. And use questions to help you perceive, know, be, receive, and trust that you are a millionaire. Here are some questions to ask. What are the infinite possibilities for me to be a millionaire? What would it take for me to be that? What are the infinite possibilities of this sort of money showing up in my life? What's it going to take for me to show up in my life? What's it going to take for me to receive the greatness of who I truly am? And what's it going to take for me to perceive, know, be, and receive that I am a millionaire? Make the choices a millionaire would make. Questions to ask before you choose anything. Would a millionaire choose this? And if money weren't the issue, what would I choose? And try these practical processes, things to do. Envision the difference it would create in your life if you could perceive, know, be, and receive with absolute confidence that you are a millionaire. In order to do this, you have to choose to step up and become more than you've been willing to be. And allow your awareness to go out 5,000 miles in all directions to all the enormously wealthy people in the world and all the places where they're functioning and are being prosperity consciousness. Tap into the place in their consciousness where they're being totally prosperous. And then bring that creative energy into your body. Notice how you feel. Begin to function from that space of beingness and see yourself already in possession of abundance, wealth, and massive amounts of energy. And this one's really short, so I'm going to continue with this one too. Being out of control, out of definition, and out of limitation. In this chapter, Steve discusses the following ideas: taking yourself out of autopilot, living a life scripted for you by someone else versus creating your life, giving up a no-choice reality, and tools that you can use to begin consciously creating your life. So how do you want to live your life? Are you aware that if you don't claim and own your power, then you create a limited possibility? Many people create their lives by living out other people's realities. They do this by working in occupations chosen by their families, or by making choices because of societal influence or quote-unquote excellent prospects. I would like to tell you about Chutisa's early conditioning. She experienced firsthand what it feels to live a life scripted and prescribed by others. Chutisa was told as a very young child that she must become a scientist. She was persuaded to go to university to attain degrees in microbiology and biochemistry. She was told that this was the only way that she would become successful and a valuable person, and she bought this point of view. After 3 years of studying microbiology and biochemistry, both of which she absolutely loathed, Chutisa found that nothing in her life seemed to be going right. Perhaps it's more accurate to say that nothing was really wrong, but she was feeling miserable and disgruntled. Her whole life experience just began to gnaw at her. Chutisa became aware that if she wished to have a joyful life, then she would have to choose differently. She chose to stand up for herself, and she took a mammoth step towards becoming the creator of her own reality, even though she was deemed to be letting her family down. She took herself out of the autopilot and asked these questions. What's going on here? And what's it going to take for me to get out of this situation? Both brilliant questions. She became willing to be out of the control system of her current reality and to stop living by other people's rules and regulations. She stopped worrying so much about what others thought and became more aware of her true talents, abilities, and potential. She recognized that she had within her power to do whatever was necessary to change the things that were not serving her. She became willing to be out of control, out of definition, out of limitation, out of form, structure, and significance with her former reality. In other words, she claimed and owned her own power and began to consciously create her own life. If Chutisa hadn't claimed the totality of her capacity, she would still be creating her life from a limited point of view and experiencing only limited possibilities. I'm not sharing Chutisa's history with you so that you'll think she's cool, although she really is. I'm using her story to illustrate that we all have an infinite capacity to experience the greatness of who we are. We don't have to buy into the limited points of view and perspectives that are all around us. It is possible to create our lives the way we would like them to be, yet most people will not allow this into their awareness. So would you please claim and own the capacity to celebrate your life and make it joyful? Make it a joyful experience every day, starting today. And would you please claim and own the ability to be out of control and to relate to life as a spontaneous interaction with the energy of every moment? Do you create your life from obligation? While we were writing this book, I got a call from Jonathan, a 40-something general manager of a successful business based in Adelaide, South Australia. Jonathan was having a problem with an obligation, and he longed to break out of the limitations that he had imposed on himself. He'd felt a strong sense of obligation to his uncle, who had given him his job at a time when he desperately needed the money to pay his large credit card debt. Jonathan became a general manager of the business and felt duty-bound to remain in the job, which he disliked because he didn't want to disappoint his uncle. Jonathan saw his work as an obligation. His job was something he felt he had to do, not something that he chose to do. When Jonathan came to see us, he was miserable, despondent, and discouraged. And I asked him these questions. Is this the life you would like to have? And have you made a choice in life and lived as if there were no other choices? Do you create your life as if you have no choice in it? As he considered these questions, I sensed that Jonathan was struggling with personal accountability and responsibility that they entailed. After what seemed to be an eternity of silence, Jonathan said, "Oh dear, you're absolutely right. For the most part, I've been creating my life as if I had no choice in it." Jonathan's life had become drudgery because he was not doing the things that he loved. He loved to paint, but his job working at his uncle's business was extremely... where was I? Yeah. He loved to paint, but his job working in his uncle's business was extremely well paid, and he didn't feel that he could quit. I asked Jonathan to reflect on the question, well, what would it be like to give up your current reality and your no-choice attitude? And are you willing to give that up? Although Jonathan declared that he would like to stop creating his life as if he had no choice, he found it challenging to take the full responsibility and accountability for being the creator of what was actually showing up in his life. In order for him to let go of his limitations, he had to recognize that everything in his reality was a creation of his choice. I asked him some more questions to encourage his awareness. What are you creating? What choices are you making to limit your expansion? Do you feel responsible for your own creation? And by asking himself these questions, Jonathan became aware that he had shut down a large amount of his perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving in order to live in a no-choice universe. Are you staying in a job you hate? Are you one of those people who stay in a job that you hate because you think you have no other choices? Do you keep doing your job only because it's paying you a massive sum of money? This was 42-year-old Mandy's modus operandi for 2 decades. However, her willingness to give up her no-choice point of view has changed all of that. Mandy started to recognize that she could choose differently when she asked herself these questions. Will money, no matter how gargantuan an amount, ever compensate me adequately for staying in an uninspiring job that is depriving me of my joyful expression of life? Am I selling myself short? Mandy loves to write stories and enjoyed creating incredible science fiction novels, but her commitment to her grueling work as a highly paid corporate accountant allowed her no time to write. Mandy had allowed money to be the beginning and end of her work life, with satisfaction just falling by the wayside. She eventually began to feel tyrannized by her job. Things began to change for Mandy when she decided to consciously create her life. I'm not suggesting that you negate and judge your current job, nor am I suggesting that you all of a sudden get up and walk away from the work that you're doing. However, I am encouraging you to find out what you truly love to do. Discover your unique talents and abilities and become aware of the unlimited opportunities to implement them and generate huge amounts of money as well. Practical processes. Ask yourself these questions. What would happen if you were out of control, out of definition, and out of form, structure, and significance in creating your fabulous, wealthy life? Would you live to experience the joy of your life? And would your life be about celebration, not diminishment? And to wrap up the chapter, we have the tools to help you claim, own, and acknowledge prosperity consciousness as a state of being. Take yourself out of autopilot and begin asking questions. Question to ask: what's going on here? What's it going to take for me to get out of this situation? Break out of your self-imposed limitations and obligations. Questions to ask: is this the life that I would like to have? Have I made a choice in life and lived as if there were no other choices but that one from then on? Do I create my life as if I have no choice in it? What would it be like to give up my current reality and my no-choice attitude? And am I willing to give that up? Recognize that everything in your reality is a creation of your choice. Questions to ask: what am I creating? What choices am I making to limit my expansion? Am I being responsible for my own creation? And will money, no matter how gargantuan an amount, ever compensate me adequately for staying in an uninspiring job that is depriving me of my joyful expression of life? And am I selling myself short? Recognize that you can choose differently. Questions to ask: what would happen if I were out of definition, out of form, out of structure and significance in creating my fabulous, unbelievable, wealthy life? And can I live to experience the joy of my life? And can my life be about celebration, not diminishment? Ha! And that was today's reading from Prosperity Consciousness. Thank you guys who are here live. Thank you for everyone who's watching the replay, because, hey, you know, what would it be like if more and more and more of us were willing to be playing in, exploring, and inviting others to prosperity consciousness? This is a brilliant book by Stephen and Chutisa Bowman. If you don't know them, find them on the Access Consciousness website or look up the2bowmans.com. They are brilliant, and I highly recommend their books, their classes, lots of things with them. They're amazing, amazing beings. So anyway, thank you. Arrivederci.